Hey, in this video, we are going to look at what media mix model is because let's face it, there are a lot of new fancy packages that can do media mix modeling. But then I often find it that even though the charts are pretty, I kind of fail to understand some of the results because fundamentals were missing. So my goal with this video is to give you a brief view into what makes up these MMM models, and these are going to be a series of videos, so feel free to follow. Let me show you a quick example of Meridian, which is a very popular product out there doing media mix modeling. And if you come to this getting started page, you'll see all these things. But the main thing is look at all these charts. They look so pretty, colorful, and if you probably read this, it'll make more sense. But I want to break down all these things so that it's a bit more easier for you to understand, especially if you understand some of the coefficients, the math behind it. Not too complex, but fundamental understanding will go a long way. Okay, so imagine your company or you are spending $2 million on marketing, and maybe you have two or three channels. Let's say there's TV, there's radio, and there's also a lot of digital channels, Meta and Google Ads, and so on. So the question is, what is driving or how much ROI are we getting from each of these channels? And this is especially important if you're spending $2 million, right? So that's the big question that is plaguing a lot of big brands. And this is $100 billion problem, right? $100 billion problem. I mean, I might be exaggerating that one a bit, but it is a problem nonetheless. And let's understand MMM a bit deeper. So a very simple way to think of MMM is it's like a GPS. So similar to how a GPS will show you the fastest route to your destination, MMM kind of does something similar. It gives you information on what channel is driving the most contribution so that you can either spend more in those channels or reduce spend in some of the channels which are not giving you the best results. So it's like getting you the fastest route to the most sales revenue or your targets. So the big target is the sales target, right? So this is what all the companies are working towards. Now, when we're working towards this, there are two approaches that you'll commonly find. First is the attribution, very popular, especially like a decade ago when it was really easy to track things using cookies. So that's one of the things that you probably need here. You need browser cookies. You also need user data as well. So this used to be really, really easy back in the day, but now it's getting a bit complex with the dark social and some of the places where privacy is of a concern and cookies are not that freely available. But nonetheless, attribution is still very useful. So think of attribution like a user journey, right? So let's say a user saw Facebook ads first, and then they spent some time on their phone where they saw Google ads next, right? So they saw Google ads, and then they finally were like so persuaded with your product, they came and bought it on your site, if I can spell this. Yeah. So that's a user journey. This is what attribution is. You can assign weight to each of these steps depending on the kind of attribution you're using, but we'll not go there for now. And the second one is MMM. And the good thing about MMM is we are using only aggregated data. And what does aggregated data mean? So you just need like weekly spend. You're not going as deep into the user journey like we did over here. If your system provides you like weekly data for each of the channels, so maybe this is Google, this is Meta, and then maybe TV ads, and then you have the revenues, that's all you need to build a MMM model and get some output. Although you might need some control variables and other things, but we won't go to that just yet. But understand there are two approaches, MMM and attribution, and this is how they differ from each other. But I still haven't given you a practical example, so let me do that. Imagine you're running a coffee chain, not just coffee shop, but like a chain of stores, and you're spending a lot of money on marketing, right? So let me draw a coffee shop over here. So this is the coffee shop. There we go. That's my coffee shop. So let's understand what we are spending here. So let me just draw this as a chart. So let's imagine we are running TV ads and we are spending $1 million on it. So this is my TV ad, right? So I'm spending $1 million on this. There we go. And then let's imagine we also have Facebook ads, which we are spending 500K on. So this is Facebook ads, 500K. And then maybe there's Google as well, where we are spending 300K, right? So this is what we're doing. And this is how we have split our budget. And this is what we are spending for marketing our coffee shop chains as a chain. Now, here's where it gets a bit tricky because most people, when they look at this for the first time, they'll see, hey, we are spending so much money on TV, $1 million, this is channel that is driving the most revenue. I mean, it makes sense, right? If we are spending more, we are expecting more revenue from that channel. But imagine we run this through our media mix model, and this is what we get. We see that TV is only driving 35%, right? So 35% of the spend here we are making back, right? So this is driving 35% of revenue. And then Facebook, let's say it's doing about 25%, and then Google is about 20%. And then we also have baseline sales, where if we did not run any of this marketing, we would get something as our revenue, which is, let's say, baseline is 20% as well. So what this shows us is, from here, it's not that clear, but let's imagine we saw that Google was responsible for 2x returns. So this means Google is the most efficient channel from our channel mix over here. Now, this is really interesting because we're not spending that much on Google, just about 300K, but we are making the most returns from Google. So does that mean we shut down everything else, like get rid of TV and Facebook and so on? Probably not. There's a really good explanation as to how each of these interactions impact each other and so on. But this is at least good to know that Google is driving more efficient sales. So you might be wondering, why does this matter now? Why do I need to know all these things? Well, going back to what we saw, there are two techniques, MMM and attribution. So far, the most prevalent use case out there was using attribution because it was so easy, using cookies and browsers and user data to track users' journey and then be able to get efficient ROI across all your channels. But now it's tricky because of the privacy concerns, the cookie deprecation, the iOS tracking is limited now. There's also GDPR and privacy laws, which makes it really, really tricky to just use attribution or MTA, multi-touch attribution. So I'm not saying we have to put all our eggs into one basket and switch over to MMM. Of course, MTA has its place, but MMM has its place as well. So I know it was a bit too much with just this one. So in the next one, I'll explore a bit more about what makes MMM work and hopefully demystify some of the equations and other things. Nothing too complex, but yeah, watch out for that.